Welcome everyone. Walt Schoenborn, Director of Digital Media here at scienceboard.net. We're here live at ISCT 2022 here in San Francisco. And I'm extremely pleased to be here with Bambi Grilley. She's the Chair of North America Legal and Regulatory Affairs Committee here at ISCT. And she's also the annual meeting co-chair. Welcome, Bambi.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
In addition, I also wanted to mention that Bambi is also Director of Clinical Research and Early Product Development at Baylor College of Medicine. So first things first, ISCT 2022 is an in-person event only this year. For the first time since 2019 annual meeting in Melbourne, having held the 2020 and 2021 meetings virtually. How does it feel to have the meeting live with people only?
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. When I was asked to be the co-chair, Queenie was talking to me about it, and this was back in the fall, and she said, we're committed to doing it in person, and I think that all of us had that anxiety that like, oh, that's a lofty idea, but what if there's another wave? And instead, it just all came together. Here we are, and just walking through the exhibit hall and talking to people, just seeing people in all the rooms, it's just so fantastic. And I just tell people so many times how much I hate being on the Zoom where the other person won't turn their camera on and you're talking to the black box, right? And here we are, there's no black box. Like everybody has to get out there, they all have to talk. And what's been really incredible is in the room, in the meetings, the energy is it just feels so different than even 2 years ago. The audience is so engaged and activated, and I had a roundtable yesterday where we went 10 minutes over and we finally just had to say, I'm sorry, you have to leave, we've all got other stuff to do, but the energy was just really intense, and people were saying, well, we're going to email you later, we want to continue these conversations, and I thought, this is because we've all been trapped at home for 2 years and we're like desperate to talk to other people and share ideas.
Yeah,
right?
the engagement has been phenomenal. It's day 2 here for us, seeing the exhibit floor, the sessions. It's attendance has been, through the roof. I think it's just been, like you said, people have just been wanting to come out and talk to one another and engage with one another. And we've been talking to people like yourself, and it's just been one of those things where, knock on wood, that we're here and everybody's having a great time. So, and thanks to you for throwing such a great meeting this year, first of all. Another question I had, and this came in from someone, that the ISCT 2022 annual meeting is also celebrating the 30th anniversary of the founding of ISCT, which I wasn't aware of. What is the status of the field, and what does the milestone mean for the organization in the advancement of cell and gene therapy?
Well, I think that really the way we set up the meeting speaks to this question, right? Mm-hmm. We really expanded the way we're presenting information in the tracks for people, because now that there's approved cell and gene therapy products on the market, that's a whole other world, right? My first ISCT meeting was Dublin, which I think was 22 years ago, maybe. It was a long time ago. And at that meeting, obviously, we were all talking science, right? We were talking first in man, we were talking, first patients. And now we're talking about products being on the market. We're talking about successful launches. We're talking about, trying to standardize the way products are released so that when you have CAR T cells, there's not different rules for different products, and all the sites that are using these products are trying to figure that all out. That's a whole world of difference from where we were when ISCT started. And I think it speaks to the passion of the people that come to this meeting. And, I'm still seeing the same people, literally. Yeah. Yesterday, I ran into somebody who, at one of the meetings, I met his baby. He had his baby with him, and now she's 14 years old. And I'm like, well, that's how long I've known you, only from this meeting. So, we're still very engaged. And I just think this shows that ISCT is maturing, the field is maturing, and ISCT is changing, trying to expand to keep this relevant and to bring in, these new aspects of having cell and gene therapies. Yeah,
it's incredible. We've had the opportunity to speak to many of the sponsors of the event, and speaking to them from, distribution side, from storage side, from manufacturing side. And it must be incredible to see the advancements, you sitting firsthand from this, from the experience of seeing how this has just gone from point A to point B now. And it's It's pretty amazing for me to see it just in the last several years, but it must be just an incredible perspective from your side.
Yeah, just to push on that a little bit, I think, I was talking about products, access, being on the market, but even when you go through the booths, I still remember when cell transport was an ice chest with dry ice in it, and now I'm seeing booths with these fancy things that have like dry ice for this and CO2 canisters for this, and then you can plug it in here, and it's just, it speaks to the fact that as the field grows and as it becomes more complicated, we have all these vendors and people stepping up to say, well, we can improve this as well. So it really is very cool.
So this kind of goes to my next question, because it's sort of you're touching on the lens is kind of almost getting bigger within the sector. And the theme of ISCT 2022 is bench to bedside to benefit. What will it take to make a wide array of cell and gene therapies available to address more diseases in larger populations?
So I think that's an interesting question, and I think it's something that I really want to push on in two ways. One is that by definition, cell therapies, gene therapies are smaller patient populations. So I'm a pharmacist by training. I've always worked in oncology, and I will tell you that I was working in oncology when Taxol was approved, which is, that's a big chemotherapy drug now, right? So when Taxol was approved, it was approved for breast cancer. It's like all comers, right?
Right.
And then it moved into other areas, and it's gotten bigger and bigger, but it's still the same drug. And ultimately, it's a chemotherapy that works by killing cells and hopefully killing cancer cells, and that's how it works. I think that the point with cell therapies and with gene therapies is that we're targeting certain things. So if you had a cancer, we're not interested in killing all, just like it's a cancer cell, we want to kill it. We want to kill your specific cancer cells while not killing your normal cells. And so by definition, our patient populations are very focused. CD19 is for CD19 positive cancers. And so, and that's actually not a small patient population comparatively. And so I think that that's part of the confusion about this is that we're not really trying to hit large populations. What we're trying to do is get more and more targets that we can treat, right? And so when you go to the meeting and you talk to the scientists, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get different targets that still hit just what we want it to hit without having, offsite toxicities.
And that's one of the things, we talk about what I've learned so much in the last few years of being able to cover this sector is the customization of so many of the therapies and how specified things need to be in order to be effective. And kind of talking to that a little bit, we know that the cell and gene therapies is still in the relatively early stage compared to other modalities. And as we learn more about cell and gene therapies, we see a number of these therapeutics receiving regulatory approval. And I guess speaking to that, has the range of targeted indications increased, would you say? And how large would you say these patient populations are?
Well, I think a lot of cell therapies end up being orphan drugs in that category, right? So they're fairly small populations, but again, that goes to the targetability of it. And the one thing that I didn't say with the last question that I really should expand on is the move away from autologous cells, the move away from I get your blood, I make cells, I give them to you, and different patients, different products, and saying, okay, how can we get third-party donors, normal, healthy people, get their blood and make sort of an off-the-shelf product that could be used for a larger patient population, so it's not one-to-one, but it's readily available. Because part of the autologous challenge is that if we get your cells and we need to make your product, that takes some time. And there's a transport issue, right?
Exactly.
If you could do off the shelf, then you ease that whole process significantly. They're already made, they're already there. We're just trying to find the right one to treat you. So that's kind of a major shift. And I think as we make that change, that it might kind of ease the ability to see these going into less specialized centers, less just academic medicine, less Houston, Boston, LA, these major hubs of medicine, right? And getting it to small towns in Oklahoma and Idaho, right? So that would be a big change. I still think that ultimately what we're trying to do is not necessarily get products that treat large populations. We just need to get more products to treat more conditions with more targets.
Are we getting there?
I think we are. I think that when you when you go to the sessions and you hear what people are talking about, they're talking about different targets. And, I know within Baylor, we're doing a lot of work that's in different targets. And I think what's interesting about it is we still have to hit the sweet spot, right? These are incredibly effective treatments. I mean, that's at the heart. What's so fun about them is that they're incredibly effective. If you find the right target for the right disease, it is potentially curative, right?
Yes.
But off-target toxicities are a real problem. And if you get a target that later it turns out it's hitting another part that you didn't anticipate, or maybe you did anticipate but you hoped it wouldn't, then you have to back out and figure out how can we increase the benefit, keep pushing forward with this without kind of ending up in this toxicity thing where we're putting patients at risk.
Yeah, the data shows that we're getting that it's getting better. That as a modality, it's getting more effective in that target success range, and I think that's a huge sign in the right direction and a huge sign of hope. For
I want to tell
treatment.
you a little story that I actually love. It's got a part that's It speaks to off-target toxicity, but it also speaks to kind of that very thin line we walk. So we were treating a 17-year-old boy with really end-stage disease, and we treated him, and he had a huge immune reaction, which was fantastic. But he had lung metastases, started to have really bad toxicity, ended up in the ICU. I mean, it was an all hands on deck situation. I mean, I'm in regulatory and I got a call at 1 a.m. So, we were all like, what should we do? The product we used had a suicide gene. We didn't want to kill off all the cells, right? It was working against the cancer. We just needed to get him through this crisis to see if we could get him back out of the hospital and moving on. So we used a smaller dose of the product to activate the suicide gene, and now he's back home and his disease is better. He's not a cure, but you know what? For him, it's a big deal, and it's a big deal for all of us who work in the field. So I don't want to say yes, we're getting to where it's all good and there's no toxicities. I just want to say that I think that we're still pushing, and these are new targets, new toxicities, and it's just a fantastic area to work in. It really is fun.
And you're not going to get better unless you push, right? So and that's definitely trending in that direction. I mean, it's hearing stories like that and other stories of where he is on effectively a much healthier person because of the treatment that he received. It's incredible and shows great strides in this sector.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing is that the scientists in this field are all very quick on their feet. Yeah. I mean, I think if you just, you're probably meeting a lot of them, but they're very quick thinkers, right? And so what's important about that is that these are really unknown territories. We give people, I mean, most of us have done a first in man. I've been involved in probably 56 first in mans where we're giving a patient for the first time this product to see what's going to happen, right? And you don't know. And if something bad happens, you have to be quick on your feet and figure out, how are we going to mitigate this? What's our next step? How do we make this work? And that's what keeps me from thinking I'm going to have early dementia, because I'm like, I have to be thinking all the time, what will we do if this happens? How are we going to get out of this?
Well, I certainly hope that you don't get that, because you are a quick thinker and you've been making great strides. And I first of all want to thank you. I know that you will have an incredibly busy schedule, so very much, Bambi, appreciate you sitting down with us and our audience at scienceboard.net. And I want to thank you for co-chairing just an incredible meeting this week.
Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so excited about the meeting, and so thank you.
Yeah. So we'll check back in with you guys soon. Bambi Grilley, co-chair of ISCT 2022 here in San Francisco. Thanks, Bambi, again.
Thank you.